Joining us now, Congressman Michael Waltz, former Green Beret. He used to work with Dick Cheney. Now he represents the 6th District in Florida, and now with the National Guard, too. Congressman, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Good to be with you.
I know you're in Florida where you're not really feeling it like everybody else. I understand. I was talking to some people going to malls. You know, here we go to the pharmacy, the liquor store, and the supermarket, and people aren't going to work. So it's really hunkered down here. And when I see stats like that, we're not scientists. I'm wondering if we're doing the right thing. Well, do you ever wonder? I mean, do you talk to people?
Yeah, all the time. Actually, Brian, just small crowd. I'm in D.C. Because I'm at work. Despite what Pelosi says, we have a defense bill. We have other things to do. I'm dealing with the Pentagon and others. And we talked about this morning on the show, introduced legislation to stop our research dollars from going to Beijing. They have these, what they call these pro forma sessions, and we're able to at least get some legislation introduced. But we've got to get back to work in the Congress, just like America has to get back to work where it makes sense. And to your point on what's happening at home, there's a lot of research emerging that this virus does best in cool, dark, indoor places. There's also research showing that it doesn't do so well outside, fresh air circulating, and in the sun. And that's been part of the debate on Florida's beaches is, it's okay to get out and run. It's okay to walk your dog. It's actually probably healthier. And there's also evidence showing people that are getting a little bit of exercise and are in shape and fit are doing a lot better than people that are sedentary and have respiratory problems. So, look, I think this thing's all over the place. At the end of the day, where it makes sense, North Florida, Wyoming, that's very different than, say, Miami Beach, downtown Miami, or downtown Manhattan. And if from my perspective, if our healthcare workers can be out there, our grocery store clerks can be out there, our elected representatives can have their sleeves rolled up, be smart about it, and get to work.
Yeah, and you're not. I mean, I know you go into war zones. No one ever doubts what you would do. I know Congressman Crenshaw and McCarthy just have spoken on this show and saying they want to go back to work like the Senate. And to be honest, Congressman, I hope it doesn't sound too crass, but if you are too old and you are vulnerable, you shouldn't have run for re-election. You are an essential worker. Since when do lawmakers not have the self-esteem to understand that they have to go to work in times like this? And if you're 86 and say, well, it's a little dangerous for me, I'm sorry. I didn't ask you to run 16 times for re-election because no one predicted 9/11. We didn't predict 2008, the collapse of the economy, where you got to work around the clock. And no one predicted this pandemic. So I have no patience for it.
But there's other things at play here. So I do. They're fine. I don't disagree with you. There are some lawmakers that maybe have some legitimate concerns. But what's really at play is this is Pelosi crafting another several trillion-dollar bill with Green New Deal provisions, with union bargaining rights, changing the way we vote, what have you, and not allowing anybody else to have a say. She just admitted this morning she's not even negotiating with the administration. She's certainly not talking to Republicans in the Senate. And her lieutenant, Representative Hoyer, Steny Hoyer, said, well, we'll call the House back when we're ready for you to vote. That's not how this works. The hundreds of thousands of people I represent, I've talked to Democrats as well, they're just as frustrated. We all need to have a voice in crafting this legislation. Don't box us into a yes or no. And what we're going to see is 1,400 pages, like we did before, progressive left-wing Green New Deal provisions that they're using this opportunity and doing this all behind closed doors with just a few people in the room. That's what a lot of this is all about.
You're on the House Armed Services Committee. You know the military threat that China presents. And you also wrote about the way China is infiltrating through our university system. You wrote a column today about the 400,000 Chinese students that come here for college. We have no way of verifying their grades, but we know their checks clear. And we know how many American students are not going to elite colleges because Chinese students are. Are they just there to learn?
Honestly, Brian, a lot of them are. But here's one thing that we need to understand. because one of my Democratic opponents has already called me racist for putting this out there. This isn't about race. This is about national security. And these kids, a lot of them are victims of the Chinese Communist Party. They don't have a choice. If they are asked under Chinese law to vacuum up everything from robotics to advanced materials, STEM, advanced algorithms from AI, you name it, they have to provide it. Every Chinese business, every individual, every researcher. And, it is a giant vacuum cleaner from our research institutions, our academic institutions, right into Beijing, and they fast-track this technology right to their military. So their whole strategy is to eclipse us economically through technology advances so that any kind of military conflict is just a fait accompli. And that's what they're doing. It's not just the students. It's American professors as well that are being recruited into what's called China's talent program. A number of them have been exposed in Harvard and other Ivy League institutions. Even there's a cancer research center in Florida where this was just exposed. And they're receiving millions in federal research dollars from NIH, from the Department of Defense and others, and then they're taking anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a month to then go moonlight into Chinese research institutes and take that taxpayer-funded research that's critical to our economy and our military right into Beijing, and this is how they're going to steal their way to the top. And this is on top of cyber theft and on top of the fact that they're buying up, believe it or not, distressed American small technology startups in key areas in the wake of COVID right now as we speak. And I've introduced legislation to stop all of it.
So are you going to introduce legislation to stop Chinese purchases of American companies, period?
Well, no. It's in critical technology areas, and it is requiring some oversight on before it's Chinese money coming in. We did the same thing if it was Russian money in the Cold War. We need to begin taking a Cold War mentality, and I hope this is a wake-up call. Same thing with the students. Will we allow 400,000 Russian students at the height of the Cold War to come in and search and study in our most advanced technological research institutes? No. So that's the kind of wake-up call that we need. We need to begin taking that mentality and understanding that the Chinese leadership seeks to dominate us economically before they do militarily. It's right out there in their own writing.
I want you to hear what Governor Haley and Ambassador Haley said. She's pretty much on the same page as you. Cut 42.
President Xi started a commission 2 years ago that he chairs that says any business that does business in China has to cooperate with the Chinese military. So think about the research, think about the data, think about technology, and now we need to change the way we think about China. We need to change the American culture towards China because they've been on a strategic mission for a long time. This is just one of their many offenses.
So here we go. I mean, they're obligated to do it, just like you're saying. So we have to be a little bit smarter. And let me ask you, Congressman, because you were with Dick Cheney. You know you can't just walk around just saying things, even though you feel a certain way. You got to sometimes you got to woo people. You have to convince allies. You have to put together a strategy. The fact that I'm seeing the Secretary of State out there so much, even allies like Nikki Haley out there so much, and the president kind of straddling the line just a little bit, I'm wondering, is there a strategy in place to get our allies to understand who the good guys are? Or do you feel as though it's still being worked out?
Well, yeah, there is, Brian, but you're also right to point out there's still a divide. There's still a lot of folks on Wall Street, investment firms, financial institutions. They see a billion-person market in China that they want access to. I just had, a difficult conversation with a major manufacturer that said, look, we want to be able to sell into China. And I told them exactly what they're going to do, because this is what the Chinese government does. They will steal the technology. They will set up a mirrored Chinese firm, state support it with and supplement it so that they can drop their prices, put the American firm out of business, and then gobble it up in bankruptcy. They've done that in ports. That's what they've done in pharmaceuticals, in PPE, and around the world. The president understands this. He knows that they haven't been operating on a level playing field, that what they're doing is unfair and wrong. But he gets tugged a little bit by these folks whispering in their ear. My point is, if you want access to a billion-person market, look at India. That is 1.3 billion people, the world's largest democracy, a critical U.S. ally that is in line with our values and our thinking, that aren't oppressing millions of its own citizens and seeking to dominate the United States in the New World Order. So some of that is still
and
playing
my last
out,
thought on
this
this
is a strategy, and we have a committee now in place in the Congress to take this on.
All right, lastly, while you think about that, where's the Muslim world? They're upset that a handful of terrorists are at Gitmo, but what about the hundreds of thousands in concentration camps because they're Muslim in China? Not a word.
That's right. Or even, beating up Israel with the boycott movement like Ilhan Omar and the squad, but yet not a word about the over 1 million Muslim Uyghurs that are in slave labor and concentration camps right now as we speak under the Chinese Communist Party, not to mention the Tibetan Buddhists and on and on and on. So we're going to call out the hypocrisy of the left on this all day long.
Congressman Michael Waltz, I hope to join you in Florida soon in the 6th District there. Thanks so much for all you do.
All right. Thanks, Brian. See you soon. And happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.